So, life is pretty good if you're Dak Prescott. You know, you've had a rough last year. Obviously, there's the gruesome, what was it, fractured ankle?
Yeah.
And then the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And this is after like the Cowboys had a roller coaster to start the year, where they would come back, they would down from huge deficits, and Cowboys fans are still feeling pretty good about themselves. Then the unfortunate injury happens, and from there, the NFC least is born. And now, if you're a Cowboys fan, you've got to be feeling pretty good because you have your star quarterback locked up. They signed it to what? 4 years, 160. So, quick math:
40 million.
40 million per year.
That is second in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with it outside of if he was healthy. I have no problem giving him this deal.
Mm-hmm.
The one problem is he healthy? I don't know.
That's a tough answer to question.
That's the only thing I question about the entire deal.
I feel like they'd be doing him dirty if they didn't give him the contract because he was lights out, and the only reason they were anywhere near competitive last season. So, I mean, in that very small sample size, he deserves it 100%. I think he can still come back and be the same player. I know it's an ankle injury.
For sure.
So, obviously, as a guy who can play mobile in the pocket and can run around, that's an element to his game that you got to watch out for coming off of an injury like that. But, I mean, he was lights out. He was a year before top. Was he tops in yards in 2019? I mean,
he was up there. Like he's been an elite quarterback. So like it's a frustrating thing when you look at the Cowboys and you look at it in the grand scheme of things because they are a team that has holes and you don't really know what you're going to get coming off of the injury. And that's if Dak was basically carrying them a lackluster defense last year, and he made it not matter because the offense was one of the best that we've ever seen. Right? So does he have to do that again coming off of this catastrophic injury? Like it's a trauma injury that he had, right? Like this is it's a fractured ankle.
It was brutal. That injury was
brutal.
ruthless.
So it's for me. When I see he's the second highest paid quarterback in the league, who's he behind? Mahomes, right?
Mahomes, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So being behind those two, being behind Mahomes, obviously, but like quarterbacks, they set the market every time they get a new deal. I don't see how you can have a problem with any of this because that's the going rate for quarterbacks. You can't just let a quarterback of Dak Prescott's stature just walk through the door, because then he goes signs with the Bears or the Washington football team, and he's taking that team to new heights.
To
answer your earlier question, Mauro, he was second in passing yards and fourth in pass touchdowns. The last year he was fully healthy. So like the kid can play when he's healthy. The big question obviously is that injury and whether or not he comes out of it. But like I think they're gonna get their money's worth if this kid comes back and he is even close to what he's been the previous few years. Because I think without him, the Cowboys down the stretch, they obviously had that run in the middle where they were just terrible, and you could argue they were the worst team in the NFL. But that one little stretch near the end where they kind of started to figure out the offense, if you added Dak Prescott into that mix, they were a playoff team. I think without a doubt in my mind, they would have been better than the football team. Personally.
And I don't see how they're not one of the most intriguing teams heading into free agency, because if you can find ways to upgrade that defense, because the defense, they figured out ways like to get, they got a decent pass rush with Randy, was it Randy? Not Randy Gregory. Was it Randy? It was Alvin Smith and someone else. But like it was fine. But I just feel like the defense, you can't rely on a guy like Leighton Vander Esch, who's just never been healthy. Jalen
Never
Smith
healthy.
has battled.
He's a
injuries
Band-Aid.
too. So like if you're betting on the Cowboys to win, which I still think that they're the divisional leader.
Yeah.
They're the team I still feel the best about because they have the elite offense, right? Washington has the elite defense in the division. So does the Giants, but none of their offense is completely a question mark all over.
Yeah. The question I have is just
Washington
with this huge contract,
without an actual starting quarterback, no.
Go for it, more.
I was just gonna say, like, with this new contract, though, where does that leave them with room to go ahead and bring in guys to support the defense, right? Because that's a hefty contract. I don't know what he was making prior to this extension, but 40 million's up there with the best of them, and that doesn't leave you with much room. I know Dalvin Tomlinson was one of the guys we were looking to try and sign, and he was a name that got brought up for the Cowboys to help run for their run defense. He's a good run stuffer, so I know he's a guy that might look for some big money. And like, I
think this is before the Dak deal. I'm not sure, but this, according to Spot Track, the Cowboys had 25 million in cap space, so they're dead even. They're 16th in the league, so they're the median of. Well, I don't know if it's corrected for how much Dak is going to cost against them. He's not on the Bucs. Yeah, so they're going to have to maneuver their way around it to then supplement some of the space. Exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like, free agency kicks off in a week? I think a week. I think it's next. Yeah. So the question that I have coming out of this is, what does this do for the rest of the league, right? The other QB dominoes that clearly have been out there. Yeah. You got your Russell Wilsons, because this is one of the destinations that he wanted.
Like, what does this leave? Where does this leave Russ?
And then Deshaun, obviously, also, because they're franchise quarterbacks and they can shift the outcome of the league based off of where they go. Does one of them end up in Washington? Will one of them end up in Carolina? Does one of them end up like in Chicago? It's Miami. The next week, it could be the biggest in terms of news in the National Football League that we'll get all year. Do you guys have any inklings on like what you would want to see personally, or what do you guys think is going to happen?
How far out are we from the draft?
Couple months. Yeah, I think it's
not
May.
Until like. Okay, so I mean, yeah, like from now until then, I mean, what I like to
April
like personally
29.
for the Giants, like what I'd like to see them bring in either a pass rush or a wide receiver, yeah, for sure. But I still think that, again, like whatever you don't pick up here, you're gonna have to go out and get at the draft, right? Because there's definitely holes, at least for the Giants, that I'd like to see addressed. And I mean, next week will be fun. Hopefully they don't bring in Juju. That's the only one that I don't want them going after.
So I was literally just gonna say,
yeah.
Apparently it's like a foregone conclusion that Juju's going to New York. Now, whether it's the Jets or the Giants, who the fuck knows? I think the fit's with the Jets, to be honest, just because Sam Darnold. I think it makes sense, but I don't know if Sam Darnold is the quarterback of the future there anymore. So who knows? But yeah, if you weren't a fan of Juju in the spotlight, just wait till he gets to New York, because that'll be fun. Anything else, boys? Nothing. Cool.
We may need to take a pause here.
Yeah, sure.
I'm like watching my voice come up like 10 seconds after I fucking say something.
Yeah, it's
I can hear you fine.
It's probably coming clear, but like it's just so delayed. Like I'm speaking and then I wait and then it pops up on Zencaster like 10 seconds later.
Oh fuck.
Right.
Am I able to exit it and come back into it?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either, right?
I mean, we can restart it. I would like it's 9 minutes. What the fuck?
Yeah. I mean, you guys carried it enough that it doesn't really matter. We can just cut this out and fucking
Right.
chop it back in.
Mhm.
Just download this section and reset it, and then I'll rejoin.
Sure. One sec. Okay.
Because it was just like,
yours isn't
I'd say
downloaded yet.
something.
There we go.
I'd say something, and you guys would be in the middle of the sentence, and you're all like,
yeah. And
okay.
you talk, I was just
Fuck,
like,
man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm good.
yeah. I'm gonna start a new recording, anyways, so it'll go through.
Is there anything I gotta do here? Just
Um,
join the recording.
you guys, it says you guys are in the green room, so it'll load it. You guys in. We'll just have to do the health checks. Me and Maura are good. No, it's just Brant.
Am I good?
Yeah. All right. What do we want to talk about next?
Am
Before we
I
start?
delayed here? Or am I good?
I don't know.
You sound
Are you
fine.
delayed? Yeah, you sound fine.
No, I sound good. I'm a little better this time. You're responding a little quicker than you were before, so we should be okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like an actual conversation.
Yeah.
Good.
One sec. Let
We
me
can
try
just carry
something.
on though from where we were now.
I was gonna say,
Yeah. But what do we want to talk about? Do we Leafs next? Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't really have anything.
All right. Blow it up. The Leafs, they're done.
3 games against
Conversely-
Edmonton, null and void. Thank you.
Conversely, the Vancouver Canucks are a wagon again. Let's not pretend
clearly.
like the Leafs are bad. The Canucks are a wagon again is the real issue here. Dude, Thatcher Demko just decided, you know what? I'm blowing up the Leafs franchise today for 2 straight games. And like that was 80% of the reason the Leafs couldn't win those 2 games. Like Thatcher Demko stood in his head, and he has been for like the last 2-3 weeks of the season. He quietly might put them back in the running for that 4th playoff spot, but like yeah, it didn't look pretty if you're the Leafs coming off a 3-game sweep against the 2nd place team in the division at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not putting too much stock in a 2-game set where Thatcher Demko turned into prime Martin Brodeur.
There is nothing that the Leafs can do in the regular season that will scare me until come playoff time. There's nothing that can make me feel, oh my God, they're gonna win the Stanley Cup. They're unbelievable, and there's nothing to make me panic. The Leafs could not win the division, and I'll be totally fine. Like
They could very well fall out. Who knows? Stranger things have happened to this team.
I mean, they're due for any sort of
A collapse.
small collapse, small stint that brings us all back down to earth and get us off our high horse, because I think we need it.
They're
because,
due to lose to an e-bug or something.
I mean, we've already got the Ottawa game under our belt this season, and it's been kind of smooth sailing since then. So, I mean, it's due. It's very much due.
They've been
The
due
Ottawa
to
game,
lose
though.
ever since everyone was out. They've been due to lose.
Yeah.
They did it. They
Yeah.
did
That's the
lose.
thing.
Like they were cruising without the top 5 player in the NHL, and they won 3 straight or 2 straight, I guess, without him, and then one where he didn't look like himself, anyways. They were due to be shit for a little bit, and they haven't really been. And I mean, like the Ottawa game is, to me at this point, it's whatever, because everyone's losing to Ottawa now, and I don't really care that we blew a lead to them. They're just beating teams because they have that in them. I
think
just feel
because
like
you're
we're
playing
due
these
for
teams
something ugly.
because you're playing these teams so often that everyone knows each other and everyone knows how they want to play.
Yeah.
It's inevitable that you're going to lose some games against these teams just because of parity and lack of preparation, just lack of focus sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a long regular season. You see this in every sport. What did we say last week? Detroit beat every good team in the NBA this year.
Yeah,
Does anyone
exactly.
think Detroit is good? Like,
No,
what are we doing
it's
here?
it's gonna happen. Even if you compare, like, yes, we slaughtered the Canucks the first time we went through that series with them, but these are 2 very different teams than the 2 teams that played in that first series. Like the Canucks have gotten better, and they don't look as clunky as they did in that first first series, and the Leafs are just still missing a few key guys. It's just a very different look from both sides, and now they kind of both know how each other plays, so it's a little easier for Vancouver to come out and game plan. Whereas, like, yeah, before you knew what Toronto was, but like you didn't really get a first-hand look at it until that series. Now you know what's coming. It's a little easier to game plan. You're gonna lose games like that here and there, especially when Thatcher Demko's making almost 40 saves in the night. Like it happens.
I think Winnipeg's going to be a good test too, just because, like, to your point of you play the same team over and over again. You've played them now. This is their second series against Vancouver. Things start to get predictable. You pick up on certain things that they're doing. We haven't really seen enough of Winnipeg at all. We've had the one game against them that maybe we get to see a little bit closer to the form of that against Edmonton.
Yeah.
I mean,
Winnipeg has 9 of their next 25 games against the Leafs.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Jesus.
Yeah. This is where the entire division either takes form or Toronto just walks away with the whole thing, realistically. Like, 9 games against the second place team when there's like a 6-point gap between the two of them, it's going to be huge.
Yeah, for sure.
I think who do you guys think's the second best team in the division? Winnipeg? I think they're the most complete.
I think Winnipeg's definitely more complete than Edmonton, than Vancouver, than Calgary, for sure.
And even Montreal, like Montreal can win at times. They slaughtered Winnipeg, but like, I don't look at that team and have faith that they're gonna consistently be that team the other night against Winnipeg. Like, I think they're somewhere in the middle of the two stretches that they've had. So I don't really see them being consistently the second best team in this division.
Yeah, Montreal. Like, I think the thing about Montreal is I think they are consistent. They're just consistently meh. That they're just going to always be around like the same.
They're annoying.
The same level of play that they're. But a team like Winnipeg, they have the ceiling to be among the elite teams. Would I be shocked if Winnipeg? Or keep on saying Minnesota. Would I be shocked if Winnipeg beat Toronto in the playoffs? No, because Connor Hellebuyck can stand on his head. They have offensive players still. Like,
it goes to the point of Montreal too, where they don't have the consistent level of high level play, but you just hang around long enough, like we saw last year, where you remain competitive and you make the playoffs. Carey Price, if he's on his game, he'll steal you around, and I think the same goes for Vezina, last year's Vezina and Connor Hellebuyck. Like, you let Winnipeg hang around, you let them even later on in the season. For all we know, they could take first place in the division if they hang around long enough. 9 out of the last 25, like you just said, are going to be against Toronto. Depending on how that goes, they could easily snag the division from the Leafs.
Now, Winnipeg's obviously a question mark against us, but from the rest of the division, I haven't really seen a lot to be like, you know what, one of these teams could beat us 4-7. I don't know about you guys. I just haven't seen much from any other team that's played against us right now that I feel confident that they have a chance to take 4 of 7 from us. Like, Montreal's been close in games, but like, I don't feel like we're going to lose any of those games when they're playing. Vancouver took 2 in a row, but like,
I think Winnipeg is the only team that I could actually see do it, and maybe Edmonton if Connor and Leon just carry them. Like, that's still.
I just think they've game planned so well against those two. It's just I don't really. I'm not too worried about them taking 4.
If you're saying
I can see them stealing games. Obviously,
there is like the 10% chance that actually happens to where they can carry them. That those two elite players can carry them through it. So.
Also, they're back on the same line again today.
Are they?
Yeah. They moved Draisaitl and Yamamoto to Connor's line. So the 3 of them are playing together.
So they have
but Edmonton fans are going to continue saying that they don't play them together. It's cool.
Why don't they just put Nuge on the line too? Like, it's if you're putting them all together, what do you expect your other lines
to do? What do you need defense for? What do you need defense for? Just put Nurse out there, maybe Larson. Just rotate Nurse and Larson, and then just put Nuge on the other point and just run them for 60 minutes. What's the point of the rest of the team? You don't need them.
It's basically what they're doing at this point.
Yeah. They might have a better chance that way, I think. Just run like a power play unit the entire time. You're not going to skate around much because you'd be on the other end.
It's Tippett now, the coach, right? I remember there were games under McClellan where he would play Leon and Connor 25 minutes a night. Like it's crazy. Like
It's insane.
it wouldn't
It's
be
insane.
surprising if push comes to shove, they get back to that, because at the end of the day, without these two guys scoring on that team, they don't do anything. The team as a whole does not function unless those two are carrying.
Tip has tried his very best to try and keep them separated and like keep their depth in order a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's just like every time he panics, they go right back together again. And it's one of those things I don't expect them to make much changes.
Do we want to get into the Leafs trades that we could see happening before?
I would like to.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Right,
I have a
let's do
bunch.
that. And then Oh, do you?
I do.
Right,
I ended up creating a bunch.
Oh,
Okay.
fuck.
I'm proud of you.
I did
Kick
6,
it off
I
then.
think.
Kick it
Okay.
off then.
Let me just preempt this with one thing.
Okay.
So my cousin was mentioning that apparently Thursday might be a big day in terms of
So that's
where
what
we
Friedman-
see.
so that-
Friedman was saying that.
Yeah, Friedman was
Is that-
basically saying that in the Leafs schedule, the timing works out now best
Right.
if the Leafs do a trade. I think it's next week. I think
Is there
technically.
minimal games
but, like-
off? Is that what it is? Or sorry,
Yes,
maximum
yeah.
days off?
Well, minimal games.
minimal
off
games in the stretch is what I meant to say.
to then quarantine after.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, like if
Like
they
it's the
wanna make a
stretch where
trade
though
with-
in those 14
Correct.
days you don't play a whole lot.
Correct.
Is
correct.
what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
with
That
that.
Okay.
or
Makes
that
sense.
it's against like Ottawa, and you're
Right.
not worried
Right.
about
If you're losing one guy for those games, it's not that big a
Exactly.
deal. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Brant, kick off some of the.
Let's get into
some of
it.
the-
So I would just like to preemptively say that apparently I wasn't allowed to trade with the Marlies, and as such, I was not allowed to complete my Pierre Engvall for Nick Robertson trade.
This is a
But I would like to
democracy.
point out that that was my primary move.
You also
Just
couldn't
saying.
trade with the taxi squad.
This is a democracy.
And I also couldn't trade with the taxi squad, and I tried to trade Dermott for Lettinen on the taxi squad, but they wouldn't let me do that either.
Well, to
So-
be fair,
This is a
to be fair,
democracy. I
Engvall is
stand with him.
currently our third line center right now. So
Yeah,
I don't think
I'd
that
still-
you could send him that. I don't
I
know.
think you could. I think you could.
Well-
It's funny because you mentioned that, and I put him in a lot of these trades.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
so
It just works
Now-
money wise.
obviously there's some tweaks you can make to all of these, and some of them make sense. I'm not here for making a lot of big moves that make a big splash. I think you just need to tweak a couple pieces here and there. So none of my moves are really like franchise shaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll just start with an interesting one because we mentioned a little bit of it last week. But I'd go to the Predators because I think the Predators are big sellers right now. But I'm not going after a guy like Matthias Ekholm because I don't think as a left D man he really helps your team very much personally.
No.
So I'm going after Eric Holla and Nick Cousins for fun, just to offset some salaries.
Interesting.
For what worked for me salary wise was Dermott and Engvall, and then throw in like a fourth, maybe a
Look at
third,
that.
depending on what they're looking
that.
at. Oh, right away. I'm trading them somewhere, whether it be the Marlies, the Taxi Squad, or another team. They're both going somewhere.
I've got names written down. They're very similar too.
Yeah,
In terms of who's going.
So my whole thing here is like they're rebuilding Nashville, and there's control on both Dermott and Engvall. That's the big thing with the two of them is like I have them in a lot of these, but it's because they're either an RFA at the end of this year or next year, and there's upside to both of them. Like you're not getting a piece back that's not going to be able to play for you, and you could have them for 8 years realistically if you sign them right. So they're pieces that I think are interesting for Nashville, especially because Pierre Engvall, he's fast. He's good in his own end. He needs some work offensively, but I think you can fix that a little bit. It would kind of replace the Nick Cousins, Eric Holla thing for this year. And then you get a decent piece on your back end in Travis Dermott that if you end up trading Matthias Ekholm, you can slot him in on your second or third pair. And he helps to be like the secondary power play guy behind Yossi on that team a little bit. I don't think they have anyone else that's really offensive minded the way Dermott is.
Might be the only one.
Fabro, yeah. But I don't think he's playing for them right now, is he? Is he playing minutes?
Well, apparently he can get flipped also.
Okay.
Like,
So
that
it's a piece that you have control over,
Yeah.
and I think it would be interesting for them. And then I think you'd probably need to throw in a pick somewhere just to offset value in Holla and Cousins. But I think that was one they would have to retain in order to make it work salary-wise. They'd have to retain 40% on Cousins and 25% on Holla. That's where
What are you looking for? What are you looking for Cousins to play on the Leafs? Like, what are you saying?
he slots
line
in on
center?
like your third or fourth line. I think like he kind of creates more of a depth piece. Like he's not something you needed realistically, but like he's a good piece to have in the deal. He's a little bit of grit. He can put up points if he has to, but I think it's an interesting spot.
I think Hall is getting healthy scratch right now. if I'm right.
Is he?
He's a
I mean,
good, he's a good player though. I like him as a third center. I mean, I get
Yeah, he
why
was a
you'd
healthy
want to
scratch.
bring him in. I'm all for that. I had a different name,
That's
but
interesting.
I have the same kind of idea in mind.
Oh,
So I mean,
shoot the name.
so I'm going to our great friends in the basement, Buffalo,
The Buffalo. Yeah.
and I'm not going with Taylor Hall. No,
No.
I'm
Okay.
going with
You're
Eric
going
Stahl.
Eric Stahl. Yeah.
And I think it would solidify a very big position of need, which is the 3C. I mean, Engvall's done well since they brought
been
Hyman
okay,
onto the
yeah.
line.
Yeah.
I can't complain because it's probably been one of their more, if not the most energetic line they've had since Hyman's shifted onto that line. That being said, I just think he brings stability and goal scoring that
He's
he's
a veteran guy
Engvall.
that can kind of lock down on the third line.
So
It's obviously a rental piece compared to what Pierre Engvall would be, but I think it's probably worth the rental. Was it him or Hall that has the modified no trade?
Hall has the no trade.
Hall?
Hall is a complete no
Does
trade.
Stahl have one too?
I don't know.
I thought I remember
I'm
hearing
not
Stahl had
sure.
one. I could be wrong on that.
I mean, if
I'll
you're
look
if you're
at
Stahl saying that you don't want to get
maybe.
traded to the Leafs, that's nuts.
I think he grew up around here, didn't he?
Modified no
He's
trade.
from
Yeah,
Thunder.
he's got one.
So it's a weird it's a weird thing with him too that like there's only like he'll give you like a 5-team list or something like that. It's really small.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe the Leafs end up on that. Who knows? But I think the Eric Stahl, the Toronto train might need to slow down a little bit because I've seen it from lots of people, and I don't think it's one that's realistic in terms of like whether or not he wants to come here. Maybe he does. Who knows? But it's a long shot to see him come here. Do you have any in Buffalo, Amir? Because I have another one from Buffalo.
I mean, I have the one that
keeping
everyone.
this one in mind. I was gonna say no, and just in terms of the value and what I think it would require them to bring back. So he obviously carries a 3.25 cap hit, which they're gonna have to retain probably close to 50 on that, which leaves you at around 1.6 ish. And I'm saying it's probably gonna have to be like Dermott and Engvall,
Right?
Dermott and
It's
or
one of the. I mean, I think it's Mikheyev. He's at 1.65.
or Mikheyev. Yeah, like it.
Yeah, it's for all of these trades, it's basically a combination of those three.
I just like to point out I didn't put Ilya Mikheyev in a single one of my trades.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's with
Gross.
the trade part?
I didn't either. So.
It's not even like I don't think he's a bad piece to have in your team. I just
No,
like he's good on the PK and that's really helpful to us. Just don't play him on the top two lines, and I
he at
love him.
least does
On the
something.
third,
Yeah,
I have loved Mikheyev the last 2 weeks because he's
Yeah,
been on the
he's-
third line, just doing great things.
exactly.
But when you put him
Yeah.
on the top six, he's fucking useless. He's not meant to play that role. He's meant to just sit there and not let pucks go in our net.
he's
and that's
killing
fine.
the play at that point.
But like Pierre, I'm cool with trading Pierre.
Mauro, you have another one from Buffalo? Was that what
I
you
do.
said?
No, I'll let you
No,
take
you just remember.
whatever one you got. I got one out trade, but if you got anything else, Buffalo, go for it. Shoot.
I mean, it has to be thrown out there.
Taylor Hall.
If we're like it has to.
Yeah.
So okay, here's
I'm not here
logically here's
for
my
it, but go for
I
it.
was gonna
here's
say
logically
I'm with
my
Morrow. Yep.
Here's logically my thinking. Okay. Where if you're the Leafs, you have to be thinking, where are you playing Alex Kerfoot? If you're playing him on the second line, then I think you have to look for an upgrade at that position because I don't think he's good enough to be
He's looked really
on a
good
second
the
line on a cup winning team. No, he has. He made that nasty play
Yeah.
to Tavares through the legs, the little tap pass. That was really
when
nice.
you're sheltering him with Willie and Tavares, he looks really good. Like he's kind of looking more like he was in Colorado.
But
Yeah.
upside, Taylor Hall. So it'd be like you'd have to get them to retain 50%.
A lot.
Well, the thing is, Buffalo's basically they know that if they trade him, they have to retain because no one has the money simply to really take it on. So it'd be like Kerfoot, and then I think you'd have to throw in one of
lot.
Engvall or
I think you're now looking at like
and Dermott or Dermott.
Well, he's at an 8 million.
I think
right?
you're also
so if you
looking
retain 50
Yeah.
of that, it brings you to 4 even.
4. Yeah, so you need
So that's-
another player.
Kerfoot.
Unless
I
you
think
have
you're
Warren
also
Ruffin,
looking at prospects, like decent prospects in that deal, because I think
Which-
Buffalo knows they can
No.
get value
I
from
would-
a lot of teams, and
which
I'm
I
not
would then
really interested.
I would then say you can
I would s-
unless the Leafs suddenly love Rasmus Sandin, which clearly they aren't as in love with
no.
him as Travis Dermott, clearly because they're playing
I'm
him.
not.
Yeah.
I don't
Or
really
that
feel like giving up a
Sandin's not ready.
Was he 20? 19 or 20, Sandy?
Right.
I'm
So
not
that's
really
why I would
interested
say-
in giving up a 20-year-old that hasn't even really seen NHL time yet for Taylor Hall
For a guy who has
12
2 goals.
Like, exactly, like a guy who hasn't been good in Buffalo either. Like, I think they can get that value from someone, but if that's the Leafs and they call saying I want anyone
just
named
saying.
Sandin,
I'm just saying.
Liljegren,
I'm just
or
saying.
Nick Robertson, I hang up the phone.
I would trade Liljegren in the trade.
I'd trade.
I would-
I'd trade
I would
the first-round
offer-
pick before I give up
I
any of
wouldn't.
those guys.
Taylor
would-
Hall's
I
not worth
would
the first round
offer-
pick anymore.
No, but I'm saying
I-
if I had to pick and choose between one of those
Yeah.
3 or a
Yeah.
first, I'd
Those
shoot the
3
first
have
out
more
before
value
I go
than our
in.
first this year. You're right.
Right.
Especially this season where the draft is so
I think it-
up in
I
the
think it
air.
would be, I think it would be like Kerfoot, a prospect, and a second to get them to do the. And I think you have to think of it like that's something that the Leafs have to think of, right?
I think you got to think about SDA in that deal, maybe. I think that's an interesting name.
I don't think that he's
I don't
that
think he
high
has a spot on the
prospect.
Leafs anymore.
Yeah.
No, but I don't think you need this top level prospect. I think he's a guy
I don't
that's
think
not
he's
going
a
to fit
top-
into the
I don't
Leafs
think he's a
system.
top- He's not.
No,
a top
I think
level
he's in like the
prospect.
mid tier of prospect on this team,
Right.
and I think
Okay,
that's a
fair.
guy that you could get value for a little bit. Like, I don't think if you're the Leafs and you have to include any of those top guys for Taylor Hall, I think you walk away from the table. But if you can include a guy like SDA with like a third or a fourth on the side, then maybe you start thinking about it. But it just seems like a lot to give up for a rental player who hasn't really been good in 2 years.
Fair. No, it's fair, but Taylor Hall's still a super talented player that's done it in the past, right?
Now,
And you throw him on any of those top 2 lines, and good luck every other team in the NHL.
so I had one in Buffalo.
Mhm.
It's interesting, and I don't think it's one that the
Rasmus
Sabres are too-
Ristolainen.
No. Like I said, I'm not really looking to shake the boat up too much. But if you're looking for like a top 6 winger that like could maybe play, and you're kind of just taking a risk on, a trade that
Reiner?
would have Casey Middlestat, I think would be an interesting piece to play alongside Tavares and Nylander, because he can play the left side, and he has the exact same salary as Travis Dermott.
Am I wrong to say that Casey Middlestat is on the career path of Sam Bennett and Jake Virtanen?
I think he's closer to Alex Galchenyuk, personally.
I think that
without the early
Galchenyuk
success.
proved more than probably
They're
any of
burning
them, though.
his years.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But like, I don't see Casey Middlestat being Sam Bennett or Jake Virtanen in the fact that like they throw the body around. Like it goes under the radar, but like Jake can throw the body around, and Sam Bennett obviously is a gritty son of a bitch. Casey Middlestat doesn't have that.
So what I mean by that is a former top prospect that has all the potential in the world, and he's really never shown it. But
Sure.
we're gonna you're banking off of basically where he was drafted.
Yeah,
And
but how
that's
much of
carrying
that
it.
has to do with the fact that he's playing in Buffalo, where even Jack Eichel doesn't look good this season? And if you throw him on a line that he's built to succeed on, I don't know if he's a huge upgrade. Like I don't think it's a big move, but I just think you have a replacement for Travis Dermott. Even if you want to throw in Mikko Lehtinen into that group, I don't think Buffalo takes it because there's no control there. But I think either Dermott or Lehtinen, and you bring back a guy like Casey Middlestat, he has potential to play in your top 6, and I think he fits in really well with that line.
I don't think that they're ready to sell off on a guy like Middlestat already. Like I just think that's just not smart.
He was
to do
on
personally.
waivers this year,
What?
early in the year.
No chance. He's
Pretty sure
making
it was either him or Reinhardt got put on waivers or something like that.
No,
I'm pretty sure. I
I
could be
don't know.
wrong.
I'm like 100% certain that he didn't.
I could be wrong.
Like-
It might have been Reinhardt. One of them went on waivers here, and I was shocked.
Reinhardt
when they were.
Reinhardt wouldn't have cleared waivers. There's a difference
I'm
between.
pretty sure. I could be
Adam
wrong, but I
Henry
remember
clearing
seeing
waivers.
one of the two of them go down. It was early when like everybody was making moves and nobody was claiming anyone. But I remember one of them going down to the taxi squad and having to clear waivers. I could be wrong.
You are wrong.
I don't think I am.
Moro, you have another trade?
Yeah.
We have a trade to announce.
Just in terms of my logic here, in where I assess the Leafs and their needs, like my two biggest pieces I want them bringing in, like I could give less of a shit about a top 6 winger,
Right.
relative, like compared to a third center, and for me, it's a top 4 defenseman. Like that for me is the piece that if you're going all in this season without, like Brant saying, rocking the boat and mortgaging the future completely, like solidifying the top 4 is probably, in my opinion, their best bet in terms of giving them any sort of shot at the Final Four and any sort of Stanley Cup appearance. The name I've got is David Savard in Columbus.
Me too.
Pending UFA, he's got a 4.2 cap, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really sure what Columbus's situation is in terms of whether or not they're sellers.
That's what I was thinking.
But I think as an
Columbus
impending
doesn't even
UFA, you can get him at a discount relative to Matthias Ekholm.
Right. And he
that
plays on
being
the right
said,
side.
yeah, which is important
Way bigger.
because you can move him off of Riley, you can move him off of Ledinen, like you can play him off of any of those guys who are puck carriers. And
Savard solves a lot of holes for the Leafs because it's obviously an upgrade defensively, and also he's a son of a bitch to play up against, and like
we learned that the hard way last year for sure.
Exactly.
So who did you put in that deal? Because I also have a deal for him, but I want to see where we're both valuing this guy at.
So the way I have it set right now is that the Leafs are paying the full pop on him in terms of the cap hit. They aren't getting him at any retained. That being said, I'd have Kerfoot going the other way, along with Engvall and a pick. And I think you can maybe get him for a second. If not, you throw a first. But again, I don't really know what teams are going to be expected to give up. Given the cap crunch everybody's under and how reluctant teams might be to give up any sort of high-value picks or high-value prospects, I'm hoping you can get him for a second. But if not, I think he's a guy that definitely solidifies it in that if you need to, you throw the first their way.
Right.
So I had Amir's going to be mad. I had Justin Hall, Travis Dermott, and SDA. I think it's a significant upgrade over Justin Hall. And then they'd still have to retain 40%. I think because they're retaining 40% is why I threw in SDA, just because like, I think they're not going to pay you to take him when they could do it with someone else for more value. So you throw in a guy like that, decent prospect to have in there, and then you throw in Dermott and Hall just to kind of offset the cap hit. You could throw in Lettinen. I think they'd be interested in that one too instead of Dermott. But I think you include Justin Hall in that deal because he has next year under his belt too, if I'm not wrong. And then, so then they have him for next year. They extend their defense by a year a little bit, and then Dermott again. He's got the control. Maybe he turns into something, especially in Columbus, where he could play him with a guy like Jones or Werenski. I think it'd be interesting. And I don't know. It depends on where Columbus sits too. Like if they're not actually interested in moving him, then they're not going to take something like this. It's going to take more value, in which case I kind of walk away because I don't think it's desperate.
I think that if I hear Brant's deal and I'm Columbus, I hang up because it's like, okay, realistically to get Savard, I think you could include Hall, you could do Kerfoot. I think that the Leafs, it's tough because Hall at $2 million is a value and they have him for the next 2 seasons after this. So you can see it as an asset if you're Columbus, but then I would need like a pick or prospect coming back in order to get that deal. I like the deal. Or like if the Leafs can get it, I like it a lot. It'd be interesting to see the lines, like how they would shake out or the defensive pairings after. Because you think would a guy like Savard be better with Riley, or would he like? I kind of think so.
I like Riley Brody. I wouldn't switch that up. I would go.
Exactly.
I'd probably do Muzzin and Lettinen and
Bogosian. It's got to be Muzzin Savard. It's got to be Muzzin Savard. Then, from a minutes perspective, that like you want those guys out there. Yeah.
It makes sense. Just like pairing wise, it's That's a shutdown D pairing though. Like
Essentially,
you're not
essentially what
passing
this
that.
essentially what this exercise is us just throwing out names and then of guys we could see the Leafs trading for, and then it's the same guys going back and a combination of picks and salary retain because that's
Yeah.
what it's going to take
Yeah.
for any deal for the Leafs to make. Period.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
because there's only a certain amount of guys that make an amount of money that makes it work.
Mhm.
I'm big game hunting just because
Cool.
Friedman said,
They're looking for
for a middle six, top six winger.
Mhm.
There's the Philip Forsberg out there. You need
Yeah.
Nashville to
Sure.
retain at 50%.
Yeah.
Um,
It's going to cost you a
also
lot.
on Nashville, on an expiring deal, I'd like Michael Granlund. That would be a nice fit
Right.
for the Leafs. Could definitely play top 6 minutes.
Third line center too. No,
Did,
if you need
yeah,
him
he
to,
can play center. Yeah,
Did either of you
Right.
guys make trades in Canada?
no.
No.
Those are the only two I
I've-
had that I
have two.
mentioned.
Oh,
I have
Shoot
two
'em.
Canadian options because I think if you're looking to make a trade at the deadline this year, you make it within your division if you're in this Canadian division so that they
Yeah.
can play right away. And depending on how Vancouver lines up for the rest of the year and whether or not they start contending or they drop down, I think you should look at a guy
Tanner
like
Pearson?
Tanner Pearson.
yeah.
There's talks
Yeah.
of them potentially moving on from him, and he's probably going to cost you a lot more than I had because I had it like Pierre, Dermott, and a third. It might cost you a second. It could cost you a first, depending on how interested they are in trading him. But that's
Right.
a guy that slides in on your second line and has an incredible shot and is a pain in the ass to play against. And I think he'd fit perfectly in with that unit that's currently there. And then
I
you
like
can
it a
slide
lot.
Kerfoot. Like you don't technically have to give up Kerfoot for it. Maybe you do. It'd be a nice piece for them because he's a Vancouver kid and he likes it there. But I think it'd be interesting to see. Like I think Pearson fits in on this team really well because he's got some size, he's got some grit, but he's also got an absolute cannon of a shot. I think it'd be
He's
worth it
making
to see if it would work.
3.75.
They have to retain 42% on my deal to make it work with
So
Ingvall
what's
and
your deal?
Dermott.
Gotcha.
Ingvall, Dermott, and the third was the three. Like I think they'd have to offer more. I wouldn't hate throwing in a prospect with that,
No,
or
I
maybe
agree.
throwing in a higher pick.
Right.
But it's one of those things. If those are the two guys off your roster you go with, they have to retain 42%. Was the number.
Yeah.
And then I stayed in Vancouver, and this is probably going to get some heat from everyone that ever
No.
hears it. But I wouldn't hate seeing them go for Jake Virtanen.
I think
like,
his
if
contract's too bad.
But you can offset it by he's a free agent at the end of the year, is he not?
No, he's not.
It goes up.
Yeah.
Then you'd have to move him after that. They'd have to retain a lot. But I mean, like, it's doable. On this season alone, it's doable if you just give up Patan and Dermott, and then they'd have to retain 35%. I think they'd have to retain 50 in order to move him further. I forgot that his contract goes up after this year. But like he's a guy that he could use a change of scenery, and there's some offensive talent here that would help the hell out of him, and he's not afraid to throw his weight around. He's not a smart hockey player.
We've seen
You
some
saw what
flash
he
out of
did
him
to the
when he goes
Leafs,
up.
man.
No. Against not the Leafs.
Yeah,
Against Justin Hall.
Okay.
he can. The kid can play, but like he's just not a very smart hockey player, which I think we've had.
Yeah,
with
that's what the
Kapanen.
Leafs need. Yeah.
But I mean, like, I like Jake Virtanen because he's not afraid to throw his weight around, and he can fit on your third, he can fit on your fourth, but you can play him on the second without being like that hurt by it. He's got offensive talent, as we've seen. The contract obviously sucks, and they have to eat at least 50% of it, and then you go from there. I don't think it's a likely chance. I also had Vancouver throwing in a pick because, like, if I'm going to take on that contract, you have to give me something back.
But at that point, don't you just trade for Sam Bennett instead?
No, I think there's more upside with Jake Virtanen personally.
Do you? Interesting.
Yeah, Jake's not
Bennett
a smart hockey
has-
player, but I think he's got more talent.
I think
Bennett doesn't have
has
offensive
the
talent
experience.
anymore.
No, but he has the playoff experience, and he is a like.
So does Jake.
No,
Jake
but
went
like if you
further
look at
last
last year, no, but if you look at last year's performance in the playoffs, like Sam Bennett beats out
Sam looked
whatever Virtanen did.
Jeez, 5 goals, 3 assists.
Jake had some big games, but he wasn't great. Playoffs. But he was all. I mean, Sam Bennett was also playing on that top line, was he not? No, he's with Dubé and Mangiapane, I think it was.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So it's a little different. They had Virtanen with like fucking Roussel and McEwen, I think, at times. Like he was still doing okay.
I mean, if you could get any of those two while upgrading from your Mikheyev, Engvall, go for it. Why not? I don't think that any of these teams are looking to help you, though. You know what I mean?
The thing.
No, but I think it's one of those things. If you're Vancouver, where if you accept that you're out of it by trade deadline time, then you could make that deal with Toronto because you don't really care who gets in, right? You just because they're not going to be in your division next year, so you make that move and you think, hey, see what I can do.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think it's a move that Toronto's likely to make, especially given the contract on Jake Virtanen. But it's a move I wouldn't hate seeing. Personally, a lot of people are going to hate it, but I don't personally hate it. I think I had one more, unless you guys have more. Maybe not.
What's you guys' thoughts on Tyler Bertuzzi?
I don't like it.
No? Why? Because he's a piece of
really.
shit?
No, he's just not good.
Like, you think
he's
so?
an all-star.
Like, he's
yeah. What do you mean?
He was the third level all-star on a team that didn't even deserve an all-star. The only reason Detroit had an all-star was because every team needed one, and there were two guys ahead of him on that list, but they both got hurt. Yeah. I'm like, he's okay. He's a good fourth line piece,
not for
but
me.
like people are talking about giving up like value for Tyler Bertuzzi, and I have no interest in that. None whatsoever. Like if you're giving up
the last 2 years.
Okay, because he has to. There's nobody else. Who else was going to do it? They didn't have Larkin or Mantha last year. They were both hurt for good chunks of the season. Someone's got to score.
I mean, like, look.
I don't know.
It's interesting. I'm not against it. That's what I'm saying. That's my point.
I don't want to give up value.
It's all value dependent, right?
Right.
I saw someone on the cap friendly trade boards that was giving up like Kerfoot. It might have been Robertson. Like it was Kerfoot, a prospect, and someone else for fucking Tyler Bertuzzi. I'm like, we lose that trade every day of the week. I'm like, if you're giving up multiple pieces for Tyler Bertuzzi, then you've lost. I think. Yeah. I just don't think he's worth enough that you're blowing up multiple lines to get Tyler Bertuzzi.
What you guys thoughts on? I brought it up last week, and you guys are against it.
No,
Nick Foligno.
No. No. Did you see Steve Simmons?
Yeah.
So did you see the guy that tweeted out, basically paraphrasing what Steve Simmons said?
Yeah.
So there's that tweet that blew up last night. Basically said like, "Oh, Steve Simmons is reporting that the Leafs have serious interest in Nick Foligno, and the package could include, what was it, Liljegren, Sandin, Robertson, someone else." And I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, you know what? I don't read Steve Simmons shit ever. So I'm like, I gotta go take a look. And so I went and I found his little Sunday notes thing that he does, and I went to look. I went to look through it. He did. Well, this other dickhead did. So I read through it, and like in Steve Simmons' defense, he doesn't say that. Oh, it's reported that they're offering this. It was straight up like, my opinion is that they could trade someone. I'm like, oh, so this has no merit to it whatsoever. As soon as it's Steve Simmons' opinion, it doesn't matter. I'm like, okay, cool. So I exited right there. I'm like, I thought he was actually hearing things that were saying like, oh, all these prospects are in play. But it's not. Like, it's just he thinks that for some reason prospects don't matter and we should trade all of them for a guy that's going to play 2 years and be absolute dog shit.
If cap doesn't matter, I would trade for Nick. I'd give up a second-round pick.
If cap doesn't matter, I'm trading for Taylor Hall and Sidney Crosby and a whole bunch of other guys. But I don't have interest in bringing in Nick Foligno. I don't like him.
I think he's a decent player. I think he'd be a fine third line center. I think he could potentially.
Is that really what we're looking for? But I've seen multiple people say that now, though.
Could you not see him play in like a gritty spot on the second line with Tavares and Nylander? Like I could.
Okay.
Could you not?
Why not? I guess. But the guy did score 73 points one time back in 2014-15, but that's an outlier. They're like, he's basically a 30-point guy for most of his career. Yeah. And I just, on our top six, why? I don't want that. And I don't think you have a hole in your third line right now. and big enough to like give
Unreal
up
face-off
value
guy.
for Nick Foligno.
Unreal
Sure,
face-off guy.
but do we need that? Like Tavares has been ridiculous.
That's what I
Matthews has
mean.
been above average, and Jason Spetz has been one of the best in the league. You have three centermen that are
Are you
elite at
playing him
draw.
as a center? Or you playing him on the wing?
No, you're playing him on the wing.
Right,
But
so you're going to play
can
him on
you trust
Tavares'
John-
wing.
Can you trust John Tavares after who was it that was compared to him? What bum was compared to Tavares that I sent you the thing that Tavares 5-on-5 is playing like God damn it, fourth liner somewhere. I'm looking at
Also, Tavares' analytical numbers, they're really good. I know I know people are bashing him, but like his expected goals are, I wrote it up yesterday. His expected goals at 5-on-5, I think are sitting, it's like 14th in the league for expected goals right now. And like he's cruising. He's got an unbelievable face-off percentage, but I have it right here. His on-ice shooting percentage of his line is at 6.9%. That's the lowest in his entire career. So like his line shooting percentage is at 6.9. The lowest it's ever been before that was 8.3. So we're looking at almost 2% lower than it's been in like his worst year ever. So I mean, I think eventually something's got to give with John Tavares, and I think he'll snap back. But as of right now, it's just like he needs to just shake something up because he's getting a ton of good looks. He's just not burying anything.
Yeah.
right. Still haven't found it. It's gonna bother me.
Found what? Oh, the comparison.
The comparison.
Jay Beagle. He's 11 million Jay Beagle right now because it's simply bad luck of his goals 460 is just awful right now.
It's terrible.
But
Yeah.
that's luck based off of the amount of expected goals for he has. So
So his he's sitting at, let me see it here, 5.5 expected goals. He's 2.5 goals below expected at 5-on-5 alone. And then he's been great on the power play.
Yeah.
He's got, I think he's 5 goals in the power play, something like that, 5 or 6. It's crazy. But
I think going back to these Leafs trades, I think that's something that everyone should take into consideration is like we saw last year with who was it in the Robin Leonard deal to where the Leafs
just
took on
acquired
money.
a pick to do nothing.
Exactly, like to just offload money. I think that the Leafs will be looking at teams to do that this year. Would I be shocked if
Nashville,
team in the Taylor Hall situation, if a team could, hey, what if you got a 3rd round pick to then retain 50% on Taylor Hall's 50% that Buffalo retains?
Yeah,
you know,
like Nashville's a team that could do it if you give them picks. There's a couple others. Obviously, Ottawa. Like, I think even, like, I know they're a division rival, but I think if you went to Ottawa and said, hey, we'll give you a 4th if you pay half this money because you can do it right now and you're not competing, I think you'd be stupid not to take that deal. But if there's any GM that wouldn't do it, it's Pierre Dorian. But, like, there's lots of teams like that are, like, not good, but they're willing to just pick up picks for nothing. I never really thought of that, but it's not a bad way to play that. Then you're basically paying a quarter of some guy's contract, right? I think that's kind of
exactly like. I think it makes all the sense in the world, in my opinion, to do that. Just because if you're out of it, what the fuck else? Why not?
Betters your
did
team.
anyone else
All you're
have any
doing is
other
facilitating.
Yeah,
I only had the 2, so I'm fine on the trade front.
I mean, I had one more, which was Sammy Vatanen to the Leafs, just because runs a second power play, plays for Dermott, win-win.
Sure, I just think that there's an upgrade already sitting in the press box for the Leafs that they just
I think that
Vatanen
is a much safer and better player than Mikko
I'll give you safer.
Yeah.
I won't give you better.
But
I think he's a safer upgrade.
Should that not be their top priority? Just
which
in any capacity, by playoffs, Travis Dermott needs to be in the press box. I don't care who's out there. Just not Travis Dermott.
I gotta be honest. I really like Travis Dermott, the person, and watching him in that Edmonton series. Guy. I fucking love that guy, and I feel really bad that I bash him so much as a player because he's such a great kid, and I wish he was better, and I wish he made smarter decisions. And I think that's the thing with them is they love that guy. Yeah, he's shown it at times, like that little bit in Edmonton,
where he was a dick to Josh,
and then watching him shadow boxing with Bogosian to learn what to do in fights and stuff. I'm like, this is so fucking cool. I love this kid, but like, it's just not working, and it's just he has to be the piece at this point.
When you're out there, what does he do good? Like he doesn't. At least
Every now and then he makes a nice play
and kills penalties. You know what I mean?
He scored a goal against Montreal that blew my head off. But other than that,
and Travis Dermott, all he's doing is playing third line sheltered minutes and not doing it great.
Yeah,
he's
doing an okay job. He's nothing special. He doesn't really do much, but like every now and then he has that one play. They're like, do that all the time. Quit doing the other shit and just do what you just did. Like, he'll make plays in his own end where he makes a great defensive play, gets the puck up. I'm like, that was great. Where the fuck was that for 7 straight games? Yeah. And then that goal, like Morrow said, that was incredible. But he never does it. I'm like, if you played like that all the time, I would be in love with this kid.
I think he is one of those guys to where he could fall into the Connor Brown argument to where once you get out of Toronto, it could be the best thing to ever happen for you.
Nikita Zaitsev even, like he's looked way better.
That's my thing. Zaitsev was fine. It's just his contract was bad.
That contract's so bad, yeah. I wouldn't hate having Nikita Zaitsev on our third pair for $2 million. Like, that's good D, man.
If Zaitsev's contract was even $3 million,
he lost the minutes. Fine. I fucking love Nikita Zaitsev his first season. That was great.
I'd rather have Zaitsev than Justin Hall.
Honestly, maybe.
$2 million, yes.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, no,
honestly, at the same cap hit, honestly, yeah.
I think I would agree. Actually,
I loved Zaitsev when he was making nothing. It's just when fucking Lou butchered the contract deal.
Yeah,
that's when it just ended Nikita Zaitsev in Toronto for everybody.
I would like to see Nikita Zaitsev with Jake Muzzin. I think he would be good. Because I think if you put anyone next to Jake Muzzin, I think
on that note, I would like to see Travis. I'd like to see Travis Dermott with Jake Muzzin.
No,
I think it'd be an interesting look. I don't think he needs to play 24 minutes, but I would like to see if
they're already with him.
That's true. You're right. But like, are we going to say Bogosian is Jake Muzzin? Bogosian's good.
He's the second best thing. He's literally the second best defensive defenseman they have on the team.
Behind Brody,
he is the new Ron.
Behind Brody or behind Muzzin?
Sound, he can skate, and like I mean, his first pass has been incredible. Like that stretch pass up the gut.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you can't.
I love
ask
Zach
for
Bogosian.
Much more than.
I think he's great, but Jake Muzzin's better.
Oh, for sure. I'm just saying next to Muzzin
defensively, and I am shocked that I'm saying this, but TJ Brody's the best defenseman defensively on this team.
I disagree.
What he does on 2-on-1s and what he's able to do in transition, despite the fact that he has Morgan Riley as his D pairing, they're a positive pairing right now. It's insane. Yeah. He's incredible. And like you never hear TJ Brody's name. And like coming into this year, everything I've heard from people are like, "Oh, he's not very good. He coughs the puck up a lot." Nothing.
When it was the Jake Gardner 2.0 stuff?
That is not true. There is no truth to that. That guy is elite defensively. And just like if you don't hear his name, it's great. That's my favorite nights is when you never hear TJ Brody's name because he's just so good.
Realistically, what you're looking for anybody in the bottom half of your defense and anybody who plays in that kind of role where they are tasked with being the stay-at-home when the other guy is jumping up in the play and playing as a fourth forward.
Yeah,
right.
To wrap up this Leafs discussion.
Just hold on before we hop off of TJ Brody. That man is part Scorpion. I'd just like to say his ability to like full on lay out and just like stop pucks as they're going through.
Travis Dermott tries to do it.
He just cannot. Lots of people try. Lots of people try, but nobody does it like TJ Brody. It's incredible.
Okay, to wrap it up, Athletic Trade Board. I'm gonna go down the list of the guys that I could see as fits with the Leafs, and you're gonna just say yay or nay. Should the Leafs at least be interested? So it's not should the Leafs trade for them. Should they at least call? Okay. Matthias Ekholm. Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Jack Eichel.
I honestly, maybe not. I would call on Jack Eichel. I mean, see what the number is, and when it's way out of your thing, you go, thanks for your time. How about Taylor Hall?
Chris Urier, you can't do like it just doesn't make sense too. Philip Forsberg.
I think you call.
Sure.
I don't think you do it.
I don't
Personally.
think it goes anywhere, but yeah,
Rapid
call.
I think
fire,
you
rapid
definitely.
fire.
You should be calling on everyone.
Ricardo Kell.
You shouldn't be calling on Ricardo Cal. I think you should be calling on everyone else.
I mean, priority for me is still third center and defense. I mean, all these wingers.
Kell can play center.
But
I'm okay with that. See, but like you're already upgrading your 3C if you pick up a 2 LW, because then you just move Kerfoot to center on third line. I think you're already upgrading your center spot.
Well, in some of these trades, you're potentially trading Kerfoot, right? Dylan Strome,
No.
Dylan.
Brandon Sutter,
No.
Michael Granlund,
Not worth the cap hit.
Granlund, sure, I'd call.
Palmieri,
Yes.
Yes.
Alex Wendberg.
I don't think you get him. I think he'd be too expensive, but yes.
Doesn't
You
he
see
have
Wenberg on that
a
one?
cap?
Yeah, he's 2.25 pending UFA.
I wouldn't.
Okay, Sam Bennett.
I don't know if I see enough.
No.
I just need a yes or no. Or no.
No on Sam.
No.
Luke Glendening,
No.
No on Luke Glendening.
Brandon Montour,
No.
No.
Bernier, Bobby Ryan.
Hold on. Jonathan Bernier is an incredible goalie when at times, but you don't need him.
No. Bobby
Who's
Ryan.
No.
No.
Good
No.
story. Is it?
Yeah,
is
not
Bobby
worth
Ryan
what you're gonna have to pay.
Is Bobby Ryan an upgrade over Ilya Mikheyev?
On what side of the ice?
Bobby Ryan kill penalties for you?
No.
Then I don't see it.
Like
no.
I think
agree,
he's an
like,
upgrade at left wing over Kerfoot,
I think.
but I don't know.
If really, so you think that Bobby Ryan is a better second line winger than Alex Kerfoot is? That's interesting, at least.
Yeah.
Because if you're
Especially on
if
that
all you
other
do-
group.
at $1 million, like I think that's a gettable player.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
I'm not opposed to bringing Bobby Ryan into play on that second line. I think it's for what you have to give up because he's only on a 1-year deal, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't think you have to give up like that much.
No, that's what I mean. Like maybe a fifth, fourth.
I think
for
like
$1
it's
million guy
third,
who they're out of it.
second
They're
or third.
long out of it. You don't have to give up much. I don't think it's a second or third because like, what are you going to get from anyone else for Bobby Ryan?
Fair.
I think maybe a third. So let's say a third.
I think because of how cheap he is, then it's a discussion. Jake Virtanen,
No.
Brandt has said yes. I say no.
I'm
personally.
interested, but it's got to be a really.
I'm in on
specific
Tanner
reason.
Pearson. Tanner Pearson's next.
I'm way in on Tanner Pearson.
If Dustin Brown didn't have a trash contract, I'd be in. And it's not even a trash
Carter?
contract anymore.
No, Jeff
Because
Carter's
it's
another one there
5
too. That like
But that's
outside
way
of the
too
contract.
much.
That's what I
Casey
mean.
Middlestat?
It's another of those like if cap space didn't exist, we'd be fine.
Exactly.
I'm
Casey
in on
Middlestat,
Casey Middlestat.
interesting. He's interesting, so I call. Quickie, no. Goligoski, too much money. Ryan Dzingel?
Are they shopping him?
For the third center, he's back on Ottawa now, isn't he?
He's not. He
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
play
what I
center, he
mean.
plays wing.
Oh fuck!
And he's already
I'm not in.
quarantined. Okay. Taylor
That's
Hall?
true. You get
gotta
him out of
call.
Ottawa is nice. I'm
You
out
gotta
on
call.
Hall, but like you call.
You have to call. You have to.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't think he's
Victor
worth what
Rask?
you're gonna get for him.
Yeah,
Victor Rask?
Victor Rask. How about Tuukka Rask?
they're playing good hockey though. Why would they even trade?
Minnesota,
They're like
yeah.
top 4 in the
Right.
division.
I don't think
If
Minnesota's gonna
Henrik's
be selling at
contract-
all.
If Henry's contract wasn't forever and 5.8 is rich, but he's a solid third line center. Jake
That's way
Bean,
too
that's
much.
interesting. But I don't
Jake
think
Bean used to be disgusting. I would take the risk.
as to play as your
I love Jake Bean.
third lefty.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I
Uh,
loved Jake Bean for a while there. I think he's gross.
That's the list. What else do we have to talk about today? Holy, we got a lot.
Hockey.
So Tom
Hey, the
Wilson's a piece
NWHL's
of shit.
coming back.
Oh, okay.
Before
What
we
do
get
we want to
I
talk
think I'm a
about?
little
Doug? Okay.
Because I don't have much to say on it, but the NWHL's coming back on the 20 something I should have wrote the days down. But they do the semis one day, and then 2 days later do the finals, I think. He got suspended, 2 months ago now? So it's kind of cool news. Pops up on International Women's Day. It's big news for women's sports. Kind of cool. Should be fun. I don't have a lot to break down on it because it's just a little bit of news, but thought we'd be reminiscent and not say it.
Tom Wilson.
Trash.
Dirty players do
7?
dirty things, correct? He got suspended, 13% of the season, 12% of the season, or something like that?
It was 7 games, wasn't it?
So
I had a conversation with the Cavs fan,
56.
and I asked him, Tom Wilson, dirty player or not? Because he used to argue with me that Tom Wilson's not a dirty player. I was just like, okay. He's like, well, it's his first suspension in 2 years. He's shown he's had a capability of not being able to do it. I'm like,
Time.
yeah.
It is his first. It is his first suspension, but it's not his first incident. As I think it was Elliot Friedman pointed out, he was fined or something last year for this. I forget what it was, what the exact play was, but there was a play where he definitely could have been suspended, but they didn't end up going suspended. So like it's technically his first suspension, but it's definitely not the first time he's done something ridiculously stupid in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Continue.
And I was just flabbergasted because he still said no. I was just
He's not even appealing it either. It's not as if he's
no.
He
up in
gets
arms.
it.
Like he's literally
Now,
taking it. So
I think if this was anyone else, then it's probably not 7 games. Like a similar situation happened a few games before with Nate McKinnon, and the kid got 3 games, where it was like not technically where he was trying to hit, but he hit him in the head, and it looked a little bit predatory based on this. I forget the kid's name. He's kind of a nobody.
But then there was also the situation with Brett Pesci to where he just straight slew-footed the guy, and like, so I understand that. What is it? The Department of Player Safety? Like they're extremely inconsistent. But when you're one of these guys that have a reputation, you can't put yourself in that situation. Like, what are you doing? You have a rap. Why
on that play, what are you doing?
Right.
Go get the puck. Carlos wrapped up. Go get the puck and make a play on it. Why are you trying to hit him? Carlos not doing anything. His arms are wrapped up. It's just it's the only part of his body that's free is his head. Just go get the puck and do something with it. It just wasn't a smart hockey play. Like I think it probably shouldn't have been 7, and if it's anyone else, it's not 7.
No,
but
I
like
agree.
you don't need to make that play. Like there's no reason to.
Yeah, there's no reason to make that play at all for him. I agree. No, like Tom Wilson, just a giant douche of a player. Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, Brad. You got out for that entire thing, buddy. So look, my whole thing is Tom Wilson is
both.
a dude that you would
hold on.
love if he yeah.
Blichfeld.
He's a dude that you
What's the
love
name?
if he's on your team and you hate to play against him. But you can't deny that he plays. It's not even that he plays on the line. He is the line, and he takes it way past any sort of.
He runs
semblance of
over
where
the
he's
line.
actually playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
He Superman flies over the line. Just wee.
Basically, he cranked that.
Yeah, exactly. He
Boy,
fucking
past the
gone.
line.
He cranked the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Tom Wilson, fine player, trash person.
Yeah.
On the ice.
Bingo.
On the ice.
Yeah.
I think he's a good guy off the ice.
Yeah,
I've heard
great
lots of
guy.
good things about him
everyone
as a
says,
person.
Yeah. Everyone, yeah.
I met him. He
It's the
was
same as
actually
Brad
really cool.
Marchand. Like they have that same thing where it's like they
Right,
both are
right,
shitty
right,
dudes on the ice, but like incredible people off the ice, and everyone loves them.
Yeah.
And you'd still want them on your team because they're good players.
Yeah.
And no one wants to
Both of
play
them,
against them.
No.
It's the Evander Kane situation. Like it's the same exact thing.
It's the guys that play with the edge that
Yep.
you run the
Like
risk
Kachuk.
at times of crossing a line
it's-
where it throws you back into that
Yep,
conversation
absolutely.
of dirty player. And he'd had a bit of a stretch where he didn't have
Wayne Simmons.
anything come around in terms of supplementary discipline. But again, like that's not to say for the last 2 years he hasn't done anything
Yeah,
anywhere close. It's just
scummy. Yeah,
like it's still there. That type of player is still
Mhm.
within him. It's just
you can't teach a dog new tricks.
yeah.
It's simple as that, right? Like,
Yep.
I think that it's always going to be in him to play like that type of player.
And that's
It's
what
just
makes
who
him
he
good,
is.
though. Like to
Yeah,
that
Sure,
point,
for sure.
there are the cases where it'll cost him games where he's sitting on the bench because of a suspension, but because of those reasons, it's also why he's putting up goals beside Ovechkin.
But don't defend
why
him
you
that he's
have
a
him out there.
good, that he's
No.
but he's a dirty player. Call a spade a spade.
Yeah,
Come on.
exactly.
What are we doing?
Nazem Kadri, I loved him. He's pretty dirty
He was
when he
dirty,
played for
yeah.
us. Like he did a lot of stupid
Yeah.
shit. I could admit
Right.
it. But you love having him out there.
I think he's he lacks judgment at times more than he's dirty. Or
Yeah.
he's just
He
dumb
red
at
missed it,
times, mental
but
lapses. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. But yes, Calgary fires Jeff Ward. Cool.
Poor guy.
Who's their coach now?
Brent Sutter again.
Brent
second
Sutter?
stint.
Sutter. Fucking. I'm so sick of the Sutters getting more chances. Like, there's so many options. Why are we going back to the same old people?
Because it's hockey. It's the old boys
It's so
club.
stupid.
That sport
So
is
stupid.
terrible.
Try something
The sport
different.
is terrible.
Especially if you're Calgary. Like, come on. Oh, well. Whatever. I feel bad for Jeff Ward, though. Like, the guy went out and did his post-game interview after they won. He's just like, yeah, we're just going to stick with the process and trust that we can come out of this and blah, 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 and talking about the future. And then he leaves that press conference and like, yeah, dude, you're fired. It's like, wow.
Did I say
was
Brent Sutter?
Is it Daryl? It's Daryl,
I
right?
believe
Sutter.
it was
Yeah, it's
Daryl.
It's Daryl Sutter. Yeah, it
Apologies
is.
on that.
Brent's a
Okay, so to wrap up hockey, we got the unfortunate news that Walter Gretzky had passed away, and it was really cool to see afterwards all the NHL teams and banding around it. You saw players,
everyone.
reach out. So yeah, it was really cool
Yeah.
to see.
All the stories that came out about him too, like really puts into perspective what Walter Gretzky meant to a lot of people in hockey and in sports in general, and just the way he was as a person was just elite compared to average human beings.
Yeah.
And it's a big loss to the hockey community for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Never got the chance to meet him, but I heard a lot of stories about how he's
Great.
always signing
Great guy.
autographs, always around in the community.
Yeah.
Huge part of the just because he's just north of here, right?
He
The
loved
world
taking
lost
pictures
guy.
of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like,
Must-
you know, like you see those celebrities that like don't want to get pictures taken and they don't really want to be a part of things. He would ask to take pictures with you. Like, isn't
Yeah, like he had Sharpie
incredible
in hand
the way he
all
treated
the
his
time.
fans. Yeah, I love that guy.
Okay. So
That wraps up hockey, no?
so UFC
Finally.
259 was last weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I said it last week. All these good cards end up falling flat on their face.
Yeah,
And this one kind
you
of
hype him up too much.
Yeah.
You hype him up too much.
me
Now,
or is
it's-
it everyone?
Oh no, just everyone in general, not just you.
Okay.
I know, I got a
think
Now
lot
I
of
think
people
this
about
one,
it.
I think this was a little more expected coming into it, because like there's no doubt in my mind that Amanda Nunez is going to dominate everyone that ever comes into the ring with her. So it's not really a
fair.
fight that you're like, oh hell yeah, it's going to be another Nunez fight. Piotr Jan, I mean, I know he was the betting favorite by like very little. But like it was one of those things, like he's a champ. He looked great in his last fight. Like he's probably going to do well.
Yeah.
And then it's a long shot for Izzy to come into that fight and do well in it. So I mean, all three fights, like you could see being meh, and then they kind of were. Like obviously Nunez dominated, and then Piotr Jan did something stupid and kind of just ruined the excitement of that fight. And then what's his name? Blachowicz did exactly what he had to do to win that fight, and it's a boring fight. And it was the worst case scenario to make that card interesting, but it was one that you probably could have expected coming into it. Yeah.
I mean, how long did the Nunez fight last? That was 200 seconds,
like
if I'm not
2
mistaken.
minutes, dude.
Like
She's on an
it-
incredible level.
she's just on
Look.
another level.
I don't know if this is a hot take.
I don't think it
She has to be in the top 3, if not number 1, in the greatest UFC fighter of all time. No,
I think she is the GOAT, but I don't think that she will ever be recognized as the
No.
GOAT
Yeah.
because
but I did research, which is rare, but I have numbers and facts and lots on Amanda Nunez right now. So She is 14-1 in the UFC. She has one loss, which, okay, she's not like the undefeated king of fucking, what's his name there? Nurmagomedov. But her only UFC loss was 7 years ago to Kat Zingano, and like Kat Zingano's been shit ever since. But at the time, she was 8-0 professionally, and like she looked like something legit, so it's a fair loss. But ever since then, she's got 10 finishes in the UFC. 9 of them have been in the first round. She's only got 4 decisions. Only one of them was a split decision. The rest were unanimous, and like they were unanimous. Like it wasn't a question of whether or not she won the fights. She's got 8 straight title defenses, and like those are all really cool like statistics, right? But then you look at who she fought. She ended Ronda Rousey's career in 48 seconds, mind you. Yeah. And then from there, she goes to fight this next big thing in women's UFC in Cyborg, who like everyone's like she's going to come over here and kick the shit out of everyone. She beat her in 51 seconds. Then she's beaten Valentina Shevchenko, who I would argue is the second best female UFC fighter of all time. Beat her twice, right? Once by unanimous decision, and then the only split decision she had was against her, so shout out that. Mm-hmm. She stomped Holly Holm, who came in and beat Ronda for her title. And then she goes up against Megan Anderson this weekend, who's got like a 1.5 foot height advantage on her and just ridiculous length.
So when I saw
dumb eater.
When I saw Megan in the lead up to it, I was just like, wow, she's big, but she's in heels. She's not going to be that much bigger than her. And then you go in the ring, you're just like, no, she's even bigger than Cyborg was compared to her.
Yeah. Huge. But like my point being is that she goes against these people that are significantly bigger than them and dominates them. Yeah. Doesn't matter. Like dominates them punching, dominates them on the ground, dominates them everywhere. She wins in any which way she wants as quickly as that. It's insane. Yeah. And like there's nobody in any division, male or female, that has dominated the way that Amanda Nunez has dominated.
Right.
I think that's fair.
I am with you on this.
Now the negatives around her they will argue that level of competition just simply isn't there, and that it's true.
I don't think it's fair though, because she beat when Ronda Rousey came up. Ronda Rousey was the best woman that ever touched the sport. Ronda Rousey was the best woman that ever touched the sport. She stomped her. It wasn't even close. Cyborg was the best thing that ever touched the sport. She was going to come over and whip everyone. She stomped her. She beat Holly Holm, who beat the best woman of all time. Stomped her. She beat Shevchenko twice, who was probably the second best woman ever. Stomped her.
You're forgetting it. I agree.
I think she's way above the competition. Mm-hmm. I think she's way above the competition, but she'll continue to be above the competition for the rest of her career.
I don't see how it's in how the end is near whatsoever, other than there's no girls for her to fight. She cleared out the division, and basically
there's no one left.
So it's tough because there just simply isn't girls that just weigh 145 pounds that you can just put to fight. So she cleared it in that way, but she also cleared it that how they say okay, Israel Adesanya already cleared out the division before he's got there. Basically the same thing with Usman. Now that there's no one left to there's no clear person to fight.
Yeah,
except there's guys obviously in the division that are fighting. The UFC just simply doesn't have the people to fight Amanda. So I think that she's the greatest fighter, but I think you do have to take into consideration the level of competition next to her. But then you have to credit her at the same time. She makes them look like they don't belong in there with her because
children.
Yeah.
Because even if she's not knocking them out, submitting them, she's going the distance, and they just look brutally taxed on the body, and it's just they truly look like they don't belong in the ring with her. Like you look at
that Felicia Spencer fight. She
beat the hell up.
Yeah. Even I can never pronounce it. Ren. Yeah.
Jermaine
Yes, thank you. She she had a couple minutes where she looked like, oh hey, and then Nunez okay, enough, and just pummeled her for 5 rounds. It was
5 rounds. Yeah.
It's cool that they step in there, but
yeah,
there. I think she got hit once where I'm like, oh hey, this is close, and then she just she stopped joking around and just pummeled her for 5 rounds.
So yeah,
it's insane.
Amanda Nunez, unreal.
Yep.
The biggest story though, I think, is the Peter Yan. This dude, He's winning the
What are you
fight.
doing?
Yeah.
He's at least
That was
he at least has
round
it 3 rounds to 1
4?
at that
Yeah.
point near the end of round 4.
And there's nothing left in Sterling's tank.
Yeah,
It's
Aljamain
empty.
Sterling, he's gassed because of his pressure was there for the first 2.5 rounds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
He looked like a
his
guy that's
tank was
built to
over.
fight 3, and this is the first time he's fought 5, and it showed.
Right. Exactly. So that happens, and then he's on the ground at this point. Both his knees are on the ground. Then
One.
Peter
Only one,
Yan
in
just
fairness. He was on his foot, but
just he was grounded.
No, but either way, he's down. You're right.
And then he just gets kneed in the
A
face.
flying knee. Fuck.
like holding the
And-
back of the head too, just bop. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And who would have ever thought that in the year 2021, Khabib Nurmagomedov would be the one to break the news of saying the corner of Peter Yan said Peter Yan asked, "Can I hit him from here?" And the corner said, "Yes, go do it."
Yes.
And he knees him from there. Legitimately one of the most stunning losses I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Like it was,
That it
I
gives
think it
him
was
the
round
title.
5, wasn't it? Like it was an easy
Right.
3-1 to that point in terms of the rounds.
Right. Yeah. And all Peter Yan has to do is just stand up and
Just
like,
survive.
Stand
Aljo
pat.
survive.
doesn't have anything left. Yeah, that's all he had to do. And he goes, and I understand trying to get the finish in the UFC. It matters in terms of fans and marketability. Like it really does matter because look, personally, I thought this was the second most intriguing fight on the card. You could have argued me that Amanda Nunez was the fourth fight I would want to see on that card. I wanted to see Islam fight. Yeah, because we know the outcome.
I know the outcome.
We know the
like
outcome.
2 days before the thing. It's not.
And then you go and pull this off because you want to be the main headliner on a pay-per-view one day. Now, I don't think that'll ever happen just because the little guys just rarely do. But he goes and pulls that off, and now you lose your belt. And yes, it's a shitty way to lose it. Absolutely. I think that what they should do in future situations, I think they should just vacate the belt after
That's what I was gonna say.
one really holds it, and then just run back the fight.
Yeah. I think it's a fair way to lose it. I don't think it's a fair way to win it. I think that part kind of sucks.
Sterling wins the fight on that, right? Like it's not as like I'm with you guys on the whole vacating the title for that instance.
If you're the champ and you get DQ'd, you should vacate it. But if you're the champ and you get DQ'd against, I think you retain it. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
like if someone just pulls that like stupid shit against the champ, then the champ holds the belt. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But this just going back to
sucked.
Good old pal John Jones. He's been DQ'd before, throwing an illegal knee. Shocker. Shocker.
Never heard of it.
Those losses are nice on the resume.
Also,
but,
Piotr Yan, is he not a good dude? Because he seemed like a great guy ever since I've started watching him. But like,
he's fine.
Sterling had a lot of bad things to say about Piotr Yan when he was talking to Joe Rogan. I'm like, is there something there that like, I've missed?
They recently like just developed beef. I would assume just to sell the fight, but who knows? Like, I mean, Peter Yan, he's learned enough English to talk smack to him a little. So who knows? Like, if there's legitimate bad blood now, I would assume so. And like, look, I want to see the.
I would assume now.
If you're Aldermain, this is the greatest outcome. Because look, if you survive that fight, you lose that fight, and then you have to work your way back to even to afford a rematch. Like you're not fighting. Yeah, you're not fighting him again for the belt just like that. This way you have another chance to go out there and win it. Defend it.
I have a ton of respect for what he did too when they gave him the belt. Just like he's like, man, I didn't earn this. Like, why the fuck do I want this? So I a ton of respect for that. I thought he milked the thing a little bit. Like, obviously, don't fight again. Like, stop the fight. But like, why are you rolling around like, like you got shot? Like, just stay down. It's over.
I think he has to do that because So
I think he just stays on a knee. That doctor comes in and goes, "Oh, his brain's mangled," and then you go, "Yeah,
that's
it's
where
done."
I say no because look at how long it took them to call that fight with him doing all that stuff.
Crazy.
It took like 5 minutes for them to call the fucking fight. So imagine if he was just sitting on a knee just like trying to gather himself.
Sure.
If he didn't play it up at all, they're not calling that fight.
They probably would have made a fight. You're probably right. Which is insane.
So, like,
if that doctor shows up and like he's like, yeah, that guy can't even see me right now, you probably should end the fight.
If the fight's in New York, then they call that fight. But the fight is in Vegas, and anything goes.
I think it's hilarious too that guy gets his brain put in a blender, and then 10 minutes later they walk him over to the seat and be like, "Here, you're on." Put a headset on him and go, "So how'd the fight go?" It's like, what the fuck? This dude doesn't even know where he is right now.
It's so fucked. Because in that situation,
that's the craziest business.
It's the most inhumane thing to make him then go talk. But I assume
you're cattle, dude. You're cattle.
And like, if I put myself in that situation, I would want to talk also. Like, I want to just
maybe.
If you're Aljamain in that situation, all you have to do is say, "Man, I don't want to win it like this. I don't feel like I'm," and then everyone loves you. And I think everyone, like, coming into the fight, I want to see Aljamain win just because he's more fun than Petr Yan. Even though Petr Yan's like a great fighter, I think
Petr Yan literally throws the most punches in the UFC, like punches per minute.
Yeah,
he has the highest rate. It's insane.
Wasn't it like 30 to 10 in the fight?
He's it's his output is crazy.
He's crazy offensive with ridiculous defense. It's wild. That's a great.
And
fighter.
then so the thing coming in was Aljamain Sterling was going to take down Petr Yan, and it ended up being the exact opposite thing.
Yeah, he couldn't do it.
Petr Yan was taking down Aljamain Sterling.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What else did we have to talk about? Oh, obviously the main event, Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. And it ended up being kind of a snoozer.
A bit of
so
not a whole lot happened.
Through the first 3 rounds, I was fine with that fight because it was a super technical fight, right?
Yeah.
Jan was fighting on every fucking feint possible. And Izzy was landing, I think, the bigger shots out of them. I had it 2 rounds to 1. Izzy heading into the fourth round, with Izzy winning the first and third round.
Apparently, you were the only one.
Apparently, bullshit referees had it.
Like the judges were terrible. They got the right outcome in the end.
Result agreed.
Yeah, but like that's just an ugly scorecard.
And so, I was a little surprised because this is Jan's first title defense. And I didn't think that he would pull through in the championship rounds. And he absolutely did, because he did the stuff that he should have been probably doing in the first 2 rounds. But it's kind of smart because Izzy's
smarter, not harder.
He's more tired than he is at that point. And you can just hold him down. And there's no way for Izzy to win that fight at that point. I think it's tough because, fourth round, I understand that he's on his back the whole time and Jan just laying on top of him, but Jan didn't get any damage done that entire time. So I don't understand the 10-8, because we saw in Conor versus Khabib is literally dummying him all over the ground, right? He's pounding on him, and he didn't even get a 10-8 in that fight, right? Like, what are we doing? And then you're rewarding it for that. I don't like the scoring in MMA. Or boxing, for that matter.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I hate when things go to the judges. It's just brutal.
What's the thing?
And Izzy said after the fight, he's like, why don't we just announce the scores after every round? So that we know as fighters, hey, I need to finish here.
I'm winning.
I'm up. Like, I don't put yourself in a situation to just get absolutely clocked. Yeah. It's safer for the fighters. It's better for the fighters. It'll end up in better fights. Like, what do we do? Why? It just makes all the sense in the world to do it. But going back to the fight, so Jan wins round 4. In my mind, and basically in any other expert's mind, it's 2-2 heading into that last round.
Yeah,
I think it was around the 3-minute mark, maybe 2.5 minutes, when they're on their feet the whole time. Izzy looks like the better fighter on the feet. If Izzy stays on his feet, he's going to win the fight. At least with any clear-minded judges would have thought that.
Yeah.
Jan gets him down, and he just wears on him again.
Yeah. Dominated.
Jan wins the fight 3-2. The scores were scuffed because it ended up being like 50 to 47 or 50 to 40. Like, it was insane.
49, 46 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think of the other one.
Sure. And
it's not good.
thinking it from Israel Adesanya perspective, if I'm him, I'm kind of upset just because I don't feel like he lost the fight, if you know what I mean. Like, yes, he lost it on the scorecards, but like he didn't take any damage in that fight. He didn't
No,
Yeah.
this
like
is
he tried to be great and he failed. But I
this
don't
is
think
this
that
is Masvidal against Usman. Like he just kind of like he didn't really lose the fight. He just like
Yeah.
Usman just won it basically because he could just dominate wrestling
Yeah.
wise, and that was all it was. He just outplayed him that way, and it's the same idea. Like I don't feel like Masvidal walked out of that like in worse shape than when he walked in the ring, but he got worn down because he out wrestled him, and that's the same thing that happened here with Blachowicz. Like I think Jan tried to fight him for 3 rounds and realized like this is actually close, and I can't knock this kid out. I'm just gonna win. I don't really care how I do it. I'm gonna walk away with the wins. I don't embarrass myself against a smaller opponent.
I think it was part of the game plan. I think it was right.
Yeah.
Like, don't introduce
Yeah,
the
for sure.
wrestling until late. Because I think the entire first half of the fight, he probably thought Jan at some point is going to try to get me in the clinch, which they rarely did until like the third round. They really got into the clinch. And then he finally took him down in the 4th and 5th rounds. They played it right because like everyone's expecting
Smart fight.
Jan to either rush him or wrestle him. And they just
It was a
basically stayed
smart
away
fight from a
other
guy you
stuff.
expect to like bull rush you. Like you don't really expect him to be like calm and collected and just wait. Like you're expecting him to throw a lot of punches and try and knock you out because that's just what he's done. And he didn't do it. He just played it smart, did his job, won a fight. Great, good job. Looked good as a champion, but just not a fun fight to watch.
Even in rounds 4 and 5, it was just very super conservative. Like even when he did take him down, like he wasn't doing anything.
No,
like he was kind of just laying
Just
on
holding
him.
him.
There was
Just
no
controlling.
fists coming at him. There was absolutely nothing. It was literally just plopping on him and just holding on to him for sheer power for the better part of 2 minutes each of those rounds.
Right. It's like positioning and that's all.
Yeah,
And
just
I
positioning.
think you got to put a little bit on
technicality.
Izzy for that because he didn't want to put on weight. And I think if you have a little bit of added weight, you have a better chance on the ground like that. But he
And
didn't.
Izzy's defense isn't like he doesn't fight off his back.
Never has to.
Not an expert in it. Yeah. He doesn't get taken down at 185. So what like there's no reason to really
I think it's a big
about
learning experience for Israel Adesanya. I think he comes out of this thinking, you know what, if I'm going to compete, I got to be bigger, and I'll just keep dominating my weight class until I decide
think
to get
that
bigger.
he goes back down to 185 and he dominates there. And then if he wants to go up to, I think this fight, like you lost to the best in the world at 205. Like that's
At
not
that weight class, yeah. No.
Yeah, like that's not a bad ballpark to be in. I can still see Izzy being the double champ one day. Yes, the dreams of John versus Izzy die a little today, but you know, who knows?
Even DC said it. Like that's
Yeah.
If DC is saying positive things about John Jones, it's not good.
Well, I mean, like, look, if Izzy does pack on weight, then I think he's fine. Like, I think it's
think it's a
still
chance.
a fight I would want to see.
Yeah.
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 This was a bad weekend from the UFC from a business perspective because obviously one of your main fighters,
Stinker.
Izzy or Adesanya, lost, and the fights
a
weren't
stinker.
great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think like the UFC might have gained a lot of fans. Like I think Izzy comes out looking good. I think Jan comes out looking good. Amanda comes out looking good. Aljo comes out looking good. Islam looked unbelievable in his fight. Rakic is another. Could contend for the heavyweight title. I think that there's like a lot of positives coming out of it.
I think Amanda Nunez comes out of this as one of the most likable fighters in the sport too. Just her whole post-fight interview is just like, yeah, like he just comes out of it just like, yeah, I want to fight. I don't care. If someone wants to come, we can fight. I don't mind. Let's go.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
And
Sorry, I'm good.
The stuff with Jan is it's hilarious too because part of me is like, well, Daddy's not home and John Jones of the division, so like it illegitimizes him. But also like he's leaving the ring and he was telling over to DC basically that now I'm the champ because I proved it to anyone, and I'm paraphrasing here, but DC was basically like, nah, you've been the champ, you are the champ, and good job, like basically, and like John's a likable guy in there. I don't know, but
Sure.
I think a lot of it is for not just because John Jones is in there. That's personally.
I'm interested to see what John can do when he comes back.
I don't know.
I think he might be a
Maybe.
placeholder right now.
Yeah. Oh, John? Yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of think so. No, I think so.
I'm interested.
Yeah, that's all for the UFC. The NBA, their TSN is doing. Obviously, today is International Women's Day, and TSN is going to be doing an all women's broadcast for the Toronto Raptors game on March 24th. So that'll be really fun to see. Well, it's been a long time coming, well deserved, and I think it's gonna be something really cool because like they aren't just hiring people within TSN to do this, like because
No, they brought in.
I want someone that's knowledgeable on basketball, so they got the Mystics play-by-play person that she's going to be doing it. They have Kia Nurse, who's definitely well qualified to do it. Like that, so I think it's going to be awesome to see. Kayla Gray, she works for TSN, but like she's done that. I think it's going to be it's a milestone moment in Canadian broadcasting history because it's never been done in Canada before. So it'll be really cool. The All-Star game was last night. Did any of you watch it?
Bits and pieces.
I watched the ending of the 3-point contest. And
yeah, I caught the
first quarter of the game, and it sucked. Well, the 3-point
they
contest,
were just throwing the 3-point contest. I caught.
The 3-point contest is always
the
great.
Beginning of Steph Curry's first round, and then I watched till the end, and it was really exciting because Mike Conley actually did really well. They were saying that none of the guys, it was Tatum, Conley, Steph in the final, and that nobody from the panel thought they were going to reach 25. Nobody would even get higher than like 23. And Conley put up a 27, and it's like, well, shit. Steph's got his work cut out for him. Right. And he's got to hit like 6 of 6 in order to win. And he goes perfect. No, I think he needed to hit 5 of 6.
He needed to hit either. It was tough because he needed 4 to tie, but he needed 6. Okay. I'm trying to think off my memory because he missed, I think, the third ball, right?
Yes. So he
but
needed
he made
5
the money
points
ball,
total.
So he got 5. He needed 5 points out of the 6.
Correct.
That was on the last rack, and so the last ball was either you lose the competition
or you're
winning it. So that was the stakes were cool.
Do you think he was toying with us all? Because I really think he was toying with us all.
I don't know. I think it was the first clutch shot Steph's ever hit in his life. Hey-o!
That preceded the game, right? So the game itself started right after, and I mean, I also caught the first quarter, and it was literally just stretch pass after stretch pass.
Yeah,
players were blowing dunks. Like that was upsetting.
Yeah. Zion was being thrown like 20 alley-oops in the first quarter.
LeBron was missing layups. Zion was getting chance after chance and missing.
Y'all remember that Popeyes meme of when the sandwiches came out and it was the worker sitting on the bench outside, just hunched over, and basically was like Zion Williamson after the first quarter of being just thrown lobs after lobs after lobs, and like it was true. Like it was so brutal to see. It's not. It was last year's All-Star game was unbelievable.
Great.
It was extremely enjoyable. Because defense was being played in the fourth quarter. Yeah, it was. It's obviously going to be loose. It has to be loose because guys trying to risk injuries for that long. But moral of the story: put Toronto Raptors in the game because the game's going to be better.
Way more fun. Also, the game's more fun when Kyle Lowry's in it.
Is taking charges.
Before I do forget, I did want to mention I really liked in terms of the 3-point competition. I did like the addition of the range extender one, or whatever it is. Like I call it the range extender because it's like in 2K.
2 balls or whatever. Yeah.
It's worth the Mountain Dew ball is worth 3 points. Like that was really cool, and Steph hit both.
Steph needed them both. Yeah,
in order to even come close. So that was really cool.
Yeah. I think it's a great addition. You could even convince me they could go farther for a 4-point. The 4-point, because they're going to introduce the 4-point line. Like, why not? Why not one shot from half court for 5 points? Fuck it, right? Why not?
I heard Dame hit a shot in the game that was on the other side of half.
It was, yeah.
That's fun,
really.
and then Steph like dribbled across the 3-point
Yeah.
line and then shot one right after. They were going back and forth.
The teams look
That's
unfair.
cool. That's interesting. But
The
Was
teams
it
were
just
not
me?
fair. Did
I
you
was gonna
see the
say,
team?
Team
you see,
LeBron.
like,
I heard
had
Durant's
freaking
team was shit.
LeBron, Steph, Doncic, Giannis, and like
Jokic.
I don't know. They had Jokic. They had Gobert. They had literally everyone out of
wasn't,
everyone.
like-
Dame was
Oh.
coming off the bench.
Yeah.
Like it was
Like-
a mismatch.
Oh, and then you had earlier in the day, they're like, "Oh yeah, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid can't play." 'cause
Yeah,
they
that
were-
was
came
that was
into contact
news.
with them.
Skip Bayless was extended.
Oh, make it
We
$8
don't have
million
that
dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about why. He's trash. He's not a good analyst. But he was talking about the two teams, and like he was dick riding Durant's team, and he was just like talking shit about how LeBron's team doesn't have any scorers and they won't shoot and blah blah blah. How does that guy still have a fucking job, let alone get extended?
People watch him.
Like-
he gets clicks. Like
Yeah.
I
Gets hate
understand
clicks.
why.
It's brutal.
Sure,
It's brutal.
it still brings in
You
money.
gotta feed.
I find it wild
your,
that they extended him
tier.
after everything he said about Dak this year. Like that whole situation
Right.
that happened. I'm like, how are you extending him for like one of the highest contracts on TV?
He knows how to play his
After
audience like a
everything stupid
fiddle.
said.
Like he literally just provides clickbait, just very, very. What is this guy talking about? Kind of content that makes it that much more polarizing, and for us guys, likely to go and click and watch.
Right.
I just
He's-
refuse to buy into him.
He's got
I
a
just will
knack
not listen.
for.
I
that
will
kind of
say
thing.
though, the most interesting part was they were looking to reunite Skip and Stephen A.
Stephen A.
Mhm.
They should have done it.
Too-
They should have done it because
Sure.
you kill the competition in terms
Mhm.
of you kill Fox Sports 1 essentially.
Yeah. Well, apparently they
And
offered him a
then-
fuck ton of money too, and he just didn't take it.
Yeah,
Which
there
makes
was
sense
$1
for Skip
million
Bayless. You don't want to be
also.
the second biggest guy in your own show.
right.
Mhm.
Like,
And the thing is,
they
like,
both
it was,
have
it was
outlandish
the opposite
takes.
before. It was the opposite before, and then he left,
Mhm.
and then now
Mhm.
the rise of Stephen A.
Mhm.
Like he was obviously still big before, but ever since Skip left, he's
Yeah.
on a new
Yeah.
level.
But like if you're both on the same show with outlandish takes, only half of them are going to hit. Whereas if you have your own set and you're the ridiculous man on that one, all your takes
Right.
are going to go viral, right? Like it's a little different. So it
Mhm.
makes sense to him to take less money to be the most popular guy.
Right.
Trash. I hate him.
Anything else, boys?
I think that wraps it up.
No quick activity.
We were worried about not having enough,
I was
weren't
going
we?
to say that's just a
Good.
lot longer than I was
Yeah,
expecting.
yeah. Well, that's it for this
Yeah.
week. We'll catch you guys sometime next week. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. See you guys next time. Peace.